Hey, and welcome back to another edition of the Friday Show, brought to you this week by Walmac Farms Core Beliefs. I'm Ray Pollock, joined by Bloodstock editor Joe Nevels. Joe, tell me about Core Beliefs.
So, Core Beliefs, greatest stakes winner at 3 and 4, standing at Walmac Farms. I went out to Walmac a few weeks ago to get a look at Core Beliefs, and I was really impressed with how he came along from his first year at stud to his second year at stud. You think of Sons of Quality Road, and they're often very scopy, very lengthy, and Core Beliefs is really kind of an opposite of that type. He's very stout, he's very strong, big shoulder, short back, solid foot under him. If you have a gangly mare, if you have a mare that needs something to sort of give them a little more compact frame, Core Beliefs is a stallion to consider if you're looking to get that quality road bloodline. He's worth a look. Go out and check him out.
All right, well, thanks for that, Joe. Thanks to Walmac Farm for their support of the Friday Show. So a couple days ago, Joe, you put something in our reader support website at Patreon. And by the way, anybody that's watching that wants to support the Pollock Report, we encourage you to go to the Patreon website, patreon.com/Pollock, I believe. Is that right?
Pollock Report.
Pollock Report. Thank you. You wrote something about Steve Asmussen passing the 10,000 win mark. Now, he had already passed Dale Baird as the all-time leading trainer, and you kind of wrote that this is an untouchable record. Why?
I wrote that it's a potentially untouchable record. This came sort of in unison with LeBron James passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the NBA scoring title. I read this piece in The Ringer that looked at the other NBA records and just how breakable they are. You know, John Stockton is the leading assist leader, steals leader. Is anybody ever going to catch LeBron? And that got me to thinking about Steve Asmussen and, whether anyone is capable of catching a record like his, in an era of super trainers where, huge trainers are getting more and more starts, more and more horses. It feels like something that maybe he wouldn't hold on to this mantle for too long. I mean, Steve Asmussen's only 55, but I just sort of took a longer look at things to see if anyone that we know out there right now has a chance. And I don't know, man. They'd have to do something outstanding between now and the time that they retire.
Yeah, Karl Broberg is sort of the other guy who's piling up a lot of wins, multiple. The Asmussen formula is have multiple strings, different tracks, and Broberg is doing the same thing. And he was leading trainer by wins for a few years, I think, and now he's second to Asmussen a lot of different years. Has he got a shot?
He has perhaps the best shot of anyone. So for this piece, I really recommend you go look at it on the Pollock Report Patreon. I looked at the likes of Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, Chad Brown, Karl Broberg, and then a lot of sort of high percentage guys, Diodoro, Jamie Ness, Scott Lake, Safi Joseph. Broberg, if he keeps up the trajectory he has, and for everyone, I assume they retired at age 72. I had to put a cutoff somewhere. If he keeps on going till age 72 with roughly the same win percentage that he does now, the same average wins per year, he'd end with about 12,488, which is more than Asmussen has now. But you also have to consider that Asmussen's probably going to keep training for a long time. I projected him out to win about 15,000 races before he hangs it up. So the best chance of someone catching him is still going to end 3,000 short, barring a big jump up in just volume.
I think the other record that Asmussen is going to hold on to is the number of losses. He's currently at 49,213. That's going to be tough to break, but I don't think he wants to talk about that one too much.
I mean, that's the thing about volume. One of the things that I write about in the piece is that what helped get Steve Asmussen to this point is that for all of the high profile strings he always has a string at, the New York tracks, at Oaklawn, at Kentucky, the major circuits. He has an entirely different circuit out in the Southwest that is, it's obviously not passive income. I can't think of a better phrase for it at the time. People are working hard. Those horses are earning the wins, but they're quietly winning all these meet titles at places like Sam Houston and Remington. It's racking up all these wins that, other major barns aren't doing. You look at someone like Todd Pletcher, wins a ton of races, Hall of Fame career. He's got 5,000 wins right now. I've projected him out to retire with 8,000 wins. If he just played it straight, he would have to keep winning about 566 races per year over the next 18 years to catch Asmussen. Take a look at someone like Brad Cox. Just hit 2,000 wins. If he retired at 72, he would need to win. What's my number here? 435 races per year. Asmussen's projected 15,000 wins. Like, these people have to go bonkers to do this. And Asmussen still probably has decades left of training in him if he wants it. It's the kind of thing that it's someone I think is eventually going to break this record. Records are meant to be broken. No one thought anyone was going to break Kareem's record until LeBron showed up. But it's going to take a heck of a trainer to do it.
But here's the difference between basketball and horse racing. They play the same number of games or more than they used to play back in the Kareem's days or Bill Russell's days or Wilt's. There's a lot more playoff games now because of the way they do that. Racing, the number of races is being cut way back. So you've really got to spread yourself out there, because instead of racing 5 or 6 days a week, most tracks now are 3 days a week, 4 days a week at the most. So, and that applies to another record that I think is untouchable, and that's Russell Bays's career wins, which is 12,842. Second is Lafitte Pinkai, 9,530. Of course, Lafitte is retired. Russell is now retired. The highest active jockey, 7,344 wins. That's 5,500 wins behind. That's a lot of wins. That's Perry Oots. Now,
Scoot and boot.
Now Perry, he's still active, but I think he's going to have to ride till he's about 120 to pass the Bays record at his current pace. So
listen, if anyone can pull it off, I have faith in Perry Oots. I'm just putting that out there.
But Russell rode at a time where he strictly rode in Northern California. He did come down to Southern California and try it a few times. Didn't really do very well. He said he won almost every race at either Bay Meadows, Golden Gate, or the Northern California Fair Circuit back when racing was 5, 6, sometimes even 7 days a week. Lots of opportunities. He completely dominated. I don't see a formula similar to that working unless it's somewhere on the East Coast where a jockey, rides at Penn National 3 nights a week, and then he goes to Mountaineer, Charlestown, or Parks, or some other track in that circuit. But he's got to completely dominate, and I don't know. I don't see that happening.
I think you're right. I think the future of the riding record, if there is a chase to be had there, lies on the East Coast, because there are so many tracks in the area, so you can zip back and forth to them, and they run both day and night. If someone was truly dedicated to breaking this record, if this is what their true life goal is, you could find a day meet somewhere, ride during the afternoon, and then get to Charlestown for at least a few races on the late card they're running at night. And if you absolutely dominate everywhere, you can rack up a lot of wins. It would take a long time of doing this. The thought of it makes me very tired, but there is a path to victory here if you really, truly want it. If you can hold up. The thing that I found with both Asmussen and with LeBron James's record is that the 3 things that really hold up are otherworldly talent, consistency, and longevity. You need those 3 things to pass any sort of long-term all-time record. And, it's hard to stay healthy as a jockey that long. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have spills. You're going to have some time off. Trainers, barring suspensions or life events, don't tend to have that in the same degree. So it's a hard thing to keep up, but medical science is improving the way it is. Anything's possible.
Well, with Russell Bays, he was injured a few times, but he never had that serious long injury that kept him out for a long period of time. And he also loved where he was riding. He was happy to be in Northern California. He had no real interest to try to crack a top jockey colony like Santa Anita or Hollywood Park had when he was riding. Most jockeys want to go where the money is now, and so it's hard to see a jockey staying in a lower circuit just to pile up the wins. So what else we got? There's got to be a few other records out there that are nearly unbreakable. What else you got?
So, of course, being the Bloodstock editor, I have to bring in the Stallion side of things. I went diving through the Thoroughbred Times Racing Almanac. RIP to Thoroughbred Times and RIP to the Almanac. This thing is an absolute Bible when it comes to useless horse racing information. And one of my favorite things I found in here was most times as leading general sire. So leading sire by earnings in a given year. This has been Into Mischief for the past 4 years, but all time the leader is Lexington, who won it 16 times, straight through from 1861 to 74, and then in 1876 and 1878. Right now, Into Mischief is on a 4-year winning streak, and I think he just turned 18. So he's going to have to keep it going for a long time to be able to even sniff at this record. Tappet, I believe, is 3-time leading sire. He's got a long way to go. With the age of the commercial market being what it is nowadays, where everyone sort of flocks to the next big exciting thing, I just don't know if, even if a stallion did hit as big as it does, if the market would hold its attention long enough to allow a sire to top the stallion ranking 16 times. There are too many good stallions out there. There are too many breeders looking for different things. I just don't think it's realistic. Second closest, we had a tie. Bold Ruler and Glencoe each did it 8 times. So there's a pretty wide gap here between Lexington and the field.
Well, that sounds like an unbeatable record, and we'll talk about some other ones.
Quality at his core.
And Core Beliefs will come on and win it nicely.
By leading sire, Quality Road.
And here is Core Beliefs to take the lead. Core Beliefs on the outside. Here it is. Core Beliefs.
All the best attributes of his sire. A multiple graded stakes winner who's proven at the classic distance with tactical speed and a must-see physical.
It's Core Beliefs who digs his heels in to win the New Orleans Handicap.
Core Beliefs, standing at Walmac.
All right, Joe. Well, you talked about a horse from the Wayback Machine, Lexington. I've got another one for you. What horse in the Hall of Fame has the most career starts? You know the answer to this because you told me. It's a horse called Imp, who ran 171 times in the late 1800s. 1899 Horse of the Year. The nickname of this horse is My Coal Black Lady. This is an Ohio bred. 171 starts. She was so popular they had a parade for her in her hometown in Ohio after her retirement. So that's 171 times into the starting gate. I don't see that happening for a horse that will make it into the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean, you look at the horses that are likely to get in the next few years. I mean, Justify is likely going to get in off 6 starts. Flightline is probably going to get in off 6 starts. We could, in the future, have entire decades of Hall of Fame classes that their combined number of starts might not match a single horse in Imp.
All right, what else you got? You got another one, don't you?
Okay, so my next one, we're looking at, we go from the Hall of Fame, the highest of achievements, to the lowest of achievements. I've got the losingest horse of all time.
Zippy Chippy, right?
It's not Zippy Chippy.
Oh,
and to go along with that, we're going losingest horses who have never won a race. So I found a horse in Puerto Rico named Dona Chepa, who lost 129 career starts in the early 2000s. They're all in Puerto Rico. And I went back through the records. This horse was never even competitive. Never won a race in 135 starts. Yeah, actually, that's more. Equibase found more than Thoroughbred Times, believe it or not. That number's moved up to 135. Finished second once and third twice, earned $14,000. Even Zippy Chippy hit the board more than that. There were a few times when he almost won races and everyone was going to be devastated. Dona Chepa, never competitive over the course of 7 years of racing. And yeah, that's the losingest horse of all time. Between all of the rules for safety and horses having to have a certain record and certain performance standards to enter races, even at the lowest level circuits anymore, I just don't think we as an industry are going to allow something like this to happen again. Hope not, at least.
I would say probably the same with Imp too. Even if you're a good horse, that's a lot of starts. Mm-hmm. Well, sort of along those same lines, this horse actually did win, but it holds the record as far as we know, and this was I think confirmed in the Thoroughbred Times Almanac, the highest parimutuel payoff of all time, odds of 610 to 1 for a win by a maiden claimer at Turf Paradise in 1982. the name of Abel Bell, 610 to 1. This was pre-simulcasting. So, all the bets were made on track. I think nowadays, if you see odds like that on a horse, you're surfing your favorite ADW and you see a horse with those odds, somebody's going to play it. And the other thing is the pools are generally large enough now to where it's hard for a horse to go off at odds like that. So I don't know if that's a record that's ever going to be broken.
That's the thing. It's so impossible to hide like that. And, you have to consider back then, we didn't have, on the board, everything topped out 99 to 1. We didn't know whether a horse was 99 to 1 or 610 to 1. So until, after we saw the charts. Nowadays we have sort of more information on that. I'm pretty sure on, your ADWs, it will tell you if something's more than 99 to 1. And in the era of computer assisted wagering, things like that, I think you can't hide a true long shot. Somebody's going to throw money on this horse out there in the world. And if not, boy, that horse probably shouldn't be running in the first place. But I will say, somebody must have had this ticket, because this is for a winning ticket. I would like to meet that person and shake their hand, because they had true belief in a horse when no one else did.
Well, or it was a mistake.
Listen, as long as the ticket cashes, that's all that matters. You can make your story up afterward. Once you have that ticket in your hand, you're the winner.
All right. Well, this was a fun little exercise, Joe. Appreciate you digging some of these facts up. Good luck to everybody chasing Steve Asmussen and Russell Bays. I don't think you're ever going to get there. Thank you to Walmac Farms Core Beliefs for the sponsorship of this week's Friday show. And we'll be back next week with another thrilling episode of the Friday show. We'll see you then.
Support award-winning independent horse industry journalism and become a Pollock Report Insider on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, insiders get access to exclusive Q&As with Pollock Report staff, insight behind our editorial process, exclusive opinions and on-site analysis, Pollock Report merch, and more. This is not a paywall. The website you know and love will always be the same. But if you want more, and you want to make our coverage even better, visit patreon.com/Pollock Report and become a Pollock Report Insider today.